Pallavi Chopra, and welcome to Early Advantage. It has been quite a journey in last three conversations where we discovered about navigating the first phase of the careers. Here we go beyond the obvious advice to help you decode the unwritten rules of the workplace. When you come from college or when you join from any campus, nobody tells you how to read between the lines. And this is one place where we will help you navigate and decipher the feedback which you get in the office situations. So, if you really want to understand that, this is the show for you. And I'm gladly want to share that today we are joined by a leader whose career is definitely a great mix of being versatile and reinventing. Akshay Salaria is the head of marketing at Transbank, and his career has been quite unique. He has been a core team member in scaling great Indian brands like Tata Neu, Z5, has driven growth in edtech at Lead School, and been in the hyper competitive telecom world with Idea. While making his story essential learning, it's important to know where he started. He started as an embedded systems engineer at Honeywell and then on the ground as a field sales manager. So, it is this foundation of technology and real world sales that has shaped his strategic thinking. On top of it all, Akshay is a passionate teacher and mentor at several B schools. Akshay, thank you so much for joining us on the Early Advantage.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Thank
So, Akshay, as we know, you have done BTech and you started your career, as I said, with as an engineer at Honeywell. And after that, you did an MBA. It's a very classic combination for many of us to do engineering, spend work experience, gain work experience, and then go for the MBA. So let's talk about that transition which you faced from a structured technical world to the unpredictable world of sales. First two jobs after campuses in one way or another. So if I'm ask you, what was your biggest assumption which stand corrected after you became part of business and started working on the ground?
So you are taking me back to a time where things were very different from what they are now. Uh, but when I started off, I entered sales with the thought, or I came from a world which ran on logic and numbers, and that is what I knew best. But when I entered that space, when I entered sales and I was posted at Jabalpur,
Mm-hmm.
I I realized that the world here does not work on logic and numbers. But
Okay.
I also did not know what the world here works on. So it was kind of a double problem for me. I had a skill set that did not seem to work, and I did not know what was going to work. That was the first real world moment when I realized no, something I will have to do something. I'll have to figure something out. I'll have to learn something in order to survive here first. Doing well is step two, but to figure out what is required, and probably that was the hardest stint of my life and the most transformative also. And I'm very thankful to the company which sent me to far off locations in order to do that sales work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very critical one because that unlearning which one has to do after
Yeah,
being in the jobs and that too in the remote locations, because most of us
yeah,
think that it's the metros which drive the career, but no, the learnings which we can gather in relatively remoter locations or tier two or tier three
yes,
places can really be testing grounds. So great to
yeah,
hear.
yeah. So they were real life, real world, real goals, and real targets to meet.
Hmm. And that also becomes important when you think about the managers you had, right? And especially in such locations, your manager becomes the representative of the organization you are part.
Yes.
So, what about your first manager? What was the one thing which maybe they made you do? You might not have appreciated at that point of time. Maybe it would have frustrated you. But now you realize, as hindsight, that was a good lesson in your strategy or leadership as you would have developed.
So this one I will not talk about my first sales stint, but I'd rather talk about my first corporate stint
Okay.
after sales. So I was fresh in office. I'd come from my sales stint,
Mm-hmm.
and very often I would see my manager come out, and he would just come to a few of us and just say in Hindi, like, so the way we speak to each other, तुम्हारे पिछले हफ्ते के नंबर कम थे क्या? इस हफ्ते ये वाले नंबर ये ज्यादा है क्या? ये पीछे है क्या? ये कम है क्या? ये अच्छा क्यों है? Just simple questions you would ask me, and that would frustrate me a lot. Why why does this guy come up on few days and ask specific questions? After some time, I realized that he was just
Akshay, you're on mute.
to ensure that I know my numbers and I know what is going on.
Akshay, I lost
So
you for like a couple of seconds. I
okay,
heard the question which he used to ask you in a very simple language, but after that, maybe one or
yeah,
two sentences, if you can repeat.
yeah. So I actually did not. I realized sometime later that when he comes and asks me this question, he already knows the numbers. He's
Hmm.
already seen the numbers. He's
Hmm.
just trying to see whether I know what has happened and if I have a good answer to why what has happened. And that is something which stayed with me. I realized that if you want your team to know the numbers, if you want your team to know what has happened, why what has happened, it is you who has to take the initiative and drive that. So yes, that is something that I've learned from my managers, and I have so like my manager would just come and ask questions. I have found my own ways, but I really believe that you have to find your way
Hmm.
to get your team to look at important things. It doesn't happen normally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like being the manager, you have to do the homework as well. And
Yes. Yes.
before asking
Absolutely.
the right questions, until unless you have your ground covered, your questions will not be respected enough, maybe even by your
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
employees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a great discovery to have early in your career.
Yeah.
So as you move forward, and you have spent a lot of time in big organizations with thousands of employees and with big teams as well, and I'm sure it would have given you a lot of exposure about influence, the decision making processes, which are very complex. So if I refer to that in a not so liked word, but a very important word, is that what was the first political lesson you learned? How a good idea really gets approved, or maybe how to build that influence. So what was that?
So again, I'll put this in Hindi the way I was asked, the way
Okay.
I was told. So I had a manager. I still speak to him,
Hmm.
and it has been more than a decade that he was my manager, but I'm still in touch. And he told me something very, very crucial. He says he told me, Akshay, reality और perception दोनों manage करना पड़ता है.
Okay.
And that it might sound very intuitively right. Some
Yeah.
people might know this, but I did not
Hmm.
know it at that point of time. And that lesson has stayed with me till now. Till now, I still ask myself this question that I'm doing this, I'm doing my job, I'm managing reality, but am I managing perception also?
Hmm.
And am I managing perception in the right way? Am I communicating what I'm doing in the right way? Does the organization know what I'm doing, why I'm doing, in what context I'm doing? So it is not a managing perception is not just talking about what you are doing in entire time. It is about framing the problem statement right, uh, clearly calling out your contribution because everybody in the org is busy with their work, right? They
True.
don't know what you are doing.
Yeah.
And it is very important to do your job and also communicate it well. And I use this phrase till date. I still think that am I? managing both of them right, or is it not in balance right now? If not, then how do I bring it back to balance? So yes, reality and perception both matter in organizations, and you have to learn to manage both with time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well said. I think it brings me to the whole philosophy about image management. And people sometimes think that, oh, I don't want to do this. I want my work to speak how it is being perceived. It's not my job. But I think your manager has
It
really
is.
put it in that perspective that it is also your job to take care of the
It
perception.
is absolutely your job. It
Yeah,
is absolutely your job. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. So the balance between that reality and perception, that sweet spot of marketing and sales in a way has to be hit as we build our careers
Yes,
in our.
and it is not so. So I'll just give you an example. So if you know how to ride a scooter or a cycle, you
Mhm.
will not forget how to balance, right? So once you learn how to balance, you can always balance your entire life. But this is not something that you can do once you learn. It is not that you can do it always. With each project, you
Yeah,
have to understand the reality of what needs to be managed and manage it for each project, each day, each task. So yes, it is a continuous activity. It's not learn once and apply all.
true, very true. So, we talked about the realities, and one of the realities which we face in our lives is definitely having those stomach drop moment of making
Yeah,
mistakes,
yeah, yeah.
right? And especially in the early careers, it seems like this is the end of the world, and now my job is in danger, or now my I have to go back home and start thinking about what I do next. So it would be great if you can
Yes.
share one of those moments where you had to go through this and what was your learning of the fallout which you might have had.
So the thing that happened was that a couple of lakh customers, or probably tens of lakhs of customers,
Okay.
were sent incorrect messages. Not by incorrect means if they were eligible for offer A,
Mm-hmm.
they were sent offer B, right?
Okay.
So, and it is not 10,000 people or 20,000 people, it is tens of lakhs of people. And it was a big mistake. And the first thing I realized that point of time is apologize. Stand up and say, boss, stand up, go to your manager yourself proactively, right?
Hmm.
Try to get him when he's not in a meeting or when he's sitting, ask him, sir, chai peene ja sakte hain kya? And just tell that this is a problem we have made a mistake. This is how this is how I'm going uh, to correct it. But the big learning which came from this and other moments where I made mistakes was that there are broadly two types of mistakes I would
Okay.
classify. The first is pure human mistakes, human errors, which humans make. The second type of mistakes are mistakes because of lack of systems and processes.
Mm-hmm.
The probability that the first kind of mistake, the human mistake, will uh, you will be forgiven for such mistakes is high.
Okay.
But if the kind of mistake happens, where the management or the leadership realizes that you did not have systems and processes in place,
Hmm.
those mistakes are not forgiven, because those then becomes failures of management and not human errors. So I think that is something that has stayed with me, that people will make mistakes. I will make mistakes. People in my team will make mistakes. Everybody will make mistakes. But if they are human mistakes, they will be very, very few in count. But if your system and processes are not in place, then there'll be many more mistakes. And so the
Hmm.
effort has to be put in every day to ensure that there are systems and processes so that those mistakes don't happen. I think that was the takeaway for me from that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good categorization of where the errors can happen, human error plus the
Yeah.
systemic or institutional error as such.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm curious, what was the reaction of your manager when you told him or her that the gravity of the mistake is in lakhs of the offer being rolled out? What was the reaction?
He said, अक्षय अच्छा किया तुमने मुझे बता दिया. अब
Okay.
मैं फिगर आउट करता हूँ कैसे मुझे डांट नहीं पड़ेगी इस चीज के लिए.
Quite forgiving manager,
Yeah,
like
yeah, quite,
great
quite,
luck to have.
yeah. Thankfully, yeah. I've had, I am very grateful to have good managers
Yeah,
actually throughout. So that has been very, very helpful.
great. So, such kind of experiences also help you understand that what kind of workplace culture an organization have, right? So you have been
Yeah.
around, but what was that moment maybe for you when you build that sense of belongingness? What was your first real win where you believe that your background of engineering and now post MBA, the sales professional you have becoming, is still giving you that value of now that you're not a new person, but you are someone who has authority over things.
So I had that moment, and I clearly remember that moment. That yes, now what I've done in the past is actually helping me. I'll just start with a small anecdotal case.
Sure.
So my manager in sales, he used to tell me that, and again in Hindi, he used to tell me, अक्षय, दुकान को देख के समझ में आना चाहिए कि दुकान कितने नंबर करती है.
Hmm.
And without entering the store, you should stand outside the shop. You should be able to see the shop, and you should be able to make a guess that, boss, this store totally sells 400 SIM cards in a month, or 300 SIM cards a month, or probably 50 SIM cards in a month. You had to have that skill. I did not have that skill, right? And my manager had that skill. He had developed that intuition or that insight through experience, that when he looks at a store, he would more or less estimate what is the market size here, what is the total volume that the store does. So while I could not get that when I was in sales, but when I came to marketing after sales, there
Okay.
was a sales scheme which was being talked about. And when that sales scheme was talked about, I intuitively I knew that, what, this part of the scheme is not going to work, and this part of the scheme is going to. I did not know why, but
Okay.
I really knew that, boss, this is not going to work. We'll have to change this. This has most chances to work. So yeah, I think that was a moment when I felt, yes, yes, some wisdom has come from somewhere. I don't know how, but yes, I am able to now give an opinion on such things. So yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of the famous book titled as Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. And somewhere it talks about that how your gut feeling is a result of the experience you have gathered in so many years. So that's where you develop that SMEI or that
Yeah.
deep knowledge around any sector you are working in. So yeah, of course, that becomes a sense of
I
bit of
I
belongingness.
just want to say that Thinking Fast and Slow is one of my 10 favorite books. I
Yeah,
love the
a
book.
great
I
trade.
love the book. It is a book that, it touches the soul. It is a soul satisfying book. You feel really good. The depth to which that person has written, the way he has written, oh, it is an amazing. I would recommend everybody to read that book. It is very
Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about your period of having a great manager. We talked about having those stomach drop moment, sense of belongingness. An important part of this journey is also the rejections which we get
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
careers of ours, just like life. So, if I may direct to that, which was that no which you heard in your first 5 years of your career, maybe in your engineering job as well, and you think that now it was a blessing in disguise because it forced you to pivot or rethink your approach.
So I would say I was in sales at that time, and the territory that I had, we were third in it. Uh, and we were far from market being the market leader, so it was hard. Plus the distribution was not set. There were multiple other issues from the past, which means it was a hard territory.
Hmm.
And after a while that I joined the territory, another sales manager left the company. So his territory was then vacant. That in that we were market leaders, we were doing well, the distribution was set, etc., etc. So I went and told my manager कि sir मुझे वो वाला area दे दीजिए. I would really like to do that. He said no. I really felt that, oh my God, I was in the deep end of the pool. I had some way to go to the shallow end of the pool, but that did not work. And that is probably with that time I realized that now there is no escaping. Right?
Hmm.
अब वो हिंदी में कहा जाता है कि डूब के पार होना है ना. So I thought कि अब तो डूब के ही पार होना पड़ेगा. Now there is no escape route from here. This is the area that I have to solve for, and this is where I have to work, and this is where I have to fix things and do whatever I can. So yes, that was the first moment. No, I'm again. I'm because I did could do something there and learn from there is why I'm able to talk about it now.
Yeah.
Uh, but but when it is not every time that you hear a no or you face a rejection that you can talk uh, about it, because not everything works out well, but this one did work out very well. It really helped me as a person to
Hmm.
understand how the real world works. So while I'm thankful, and it really helped me, and now that I can talk about it because I took learnings from that time, and I think everybody will face some no's or face some rejections in their life.
Yeah.
Not all of them will be helpful. If it is not helpful, you actually have to find your way out. But some of them will be, and the ones that are, you have to learn from them and see how you can take back more.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
to your point, it is having that kind of a learner mindset, because turning your rejection into something which you can have a strong takeaway or a
yeah,
way
yeah.
to reevaluate your approach or think about the way forward only comes when you are able to look at it from an objective viewpoint. Otherwise, people can have that orientation to have a victim mindset and say everything is happening bad and why no is coming my way. And especially in the early
It,
career, it's very important to reorient your brain in that direction.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so few of the questions I'm going to ask you now, and these are going to be very impromptu. So that, and first thing which comes to your mind, right? One of those word of association things. So if I go with that, the first one I have for you is that what is the most overrated or underrated skill everyone told you to focus on, the overrated one, and what was the most underrated skill that actually made the difference in your career?
I actually talk about the underrated skill. Nobody
Okay.
told me to do that. Is that you have to raise your hand in meetings and say, I want to do this. When
Okay.
someone says, you know what, there is this project, who wants to volunteer, you raise your hand.
Hmm.
And not only meetings, you can go to your manager after the meeting or go to the manager's manager and say, boss, this is one thing that I want to do. Right. So volunteering and raising your hand, I think it is a very, very underrated skill. In most cases, it helps. In some cases, it might not. But net it helps. If you do it say 50 times, you will gain out of it. Yeah. So I think that is
Okay.
important.
And what is the boring foundational skill you think that you mastered early in your career and it really helps? What would be that?
The boring uh, foundational skill is something that I was already sort of good at, but I honed it even more, and I still practice that. is actually working on tools. So marketing happens nowadays a lot on tools,
Yeah.
especially digital marketing happens on tools. Product management happens on tools. So I actually put in the effort to learn tools. I had a knack to understand and to do them well, but I continuously practiced. I learned new tools. In fact, I had my own course on Google Analytics 3
Mhm.
on a popular web website. Uh, that has really helped me. And I still look at tools myself. I still practice. So I think that is a skill that has really helped me.
Yeah.
And this is about those days. Right now, I'm currently practicing one more skill, which is not so popular, which is doing one thing at a time, right? Not multitasking.
Yeah.
I've been practicing that, and I think it is an amazing skill.
Hmm.
Uh, it it for temporary or in the short while you may feel that you are not productive enough, but in the long term, I think it helps.
Yeah.
So yes, this would be my
That's
answer.
a great, boring superpower to have to be able to
Yeah.
be mindful and do your work. And second, as you said, the tools, because, and that is where I think you have a very strong orientation towards learner mindset, because adapting to tools after a point of time becomes a challenge as you grow in your careers. But having that knack of making sure that you do, it's a great thing to have. Moving forward, you have moved around in different industries and different organizations. So, which is impossible, I think, if you do not have a strong network. So, what is that one habit of yours which helps you build that genuine professional relationships outside of your team? Or maybe if someone, especially who's an introvert or newcomer, what would you suggest? What has been your takeaway in that?
So I'd say this is the hardest part, right? I had no knack of this. I had no skill
Okay.
set in this. I had no knack in this. Uh, and you might find this very funny, but uh, I was not a network kind of person at all. I
Hmm.
did not put in any effort to do this. But then I think with time I realized that this is necessary. It is essential.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. So once that clarity came to me कि ये तो करना ही है, but I did not have the knack. I did not know naturally how to do it. So I went to YouTube. And in YouTube, there are thousands of videos, 5 ways to talk to people,
Hmm.
7 ways to build networking. Those videos might be junk to someone who is naturally good, but for me, they were a gold mine.
Right.
I wrote down some things from there. And before I go to meetings, before I go to, say, seminars or exhibitions where I'm going to meet many people, I've stored it in Google Keep. Just open that down and read the questions once and say, okay, I have to practice doing that. So I think that is very important. If you don't have a skill, if you're not naturally good at it, find a way. Just do YouTube, speak to someone, find a way to do it. So that is one thing. And secondly, because I knew that it was necessary, genuinely having the intent to network helps. Networking just for the sake of networking is not going to help. Having the intention, having a genuine intention, being honest when you speak, and learning the tips and tricks to do these things, I think that helps. So I think that is what I did.
Hmm. Yeah, so one part is learning that as a skill if it doesn't come naturally to you. Uh, but at the same time, that those conversations which you had in your new setups, or if you're meeting the new people that have been paving that path for you, that I understand correctly, right?
Yes. So again, I think when you practice those tips and tricks over time, you get better at doing them, and
Yeah.
then you genuinely start building networks because you are being honest. You are trying, and
Hmm.
that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. So we have talked about what are things you have been doing. So if I will ask you
Yeah.
now, what is one thing you stopped doing after
Yeah.
5 years or initial years of your career? What was that?
So uh, uh, when I started doing single tasking at a point of time, I also realized, and again, I learned this from YouTube itself. I got to know this from YouTube that finishing what you start is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing one thing at a time is not multitasking, and finishing what you start, which means by finishing, you have your own definition that I'm starting this task. This is my milestone. If I achieve this, then I will look at something else. Then I will check my mail. Then I will check my phone. Then I will speak to someone. But I will focus, pay attention, give time, and complete this part. So
Okay.
doing that over and over again. So not so first I would just do 10 things at a time, and all 10 would be incomplete.
Hmm.
Now I do probably five things in a day, but I complete each of those five things with my definition of complete. That yes, this is now done, closed. This is now done, closed. This is now done, closed. I think that is, I stopped keeping incomplete things and I started completing things, starting. So finishing what you start, I think that has really helped me. And I intend to practice this for not only in my professional life, but in my personal life also.
True.
I practice this. So, and I intend to do this, continue doing this.
Great. Yeah, I think that's critical because we get into the loop of starting multiple things and forgetting that
Yes,
what is still open. So,
yes, yes.
yeah, great to hear that, Akshay. And we are close to wrapping up our conversation. So, I'll ask you one last question now. And that is to the Akshay who started his career 20 years ago or 19 years ago. What was one thing which you definitely will tell him not to worry about?
Not to worry about. Okay.
Or to worry, or
I
be an advice, either way.
Yeah. So I'd like to tell that Akshay at that time that like uh, like uh, uh, like you do an SIP to save money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every month you put money in a mutual fund, you do an RD, you do an FD, you buy gold or whatever as per your financial thinking. Everything else in life also works in the same way. You're investing money because you want more money back tomorrow. That is why you put in some money
Right.
today. That same thing applies to everything else in life. So if you want to learn if you want to learn Python, just for an example, or if you want to learn AI, if you want to play a music instrument, if you want to learn a dance form, if you want to learn to sing or do anything, the SIP mode is the only way that I think works, which means every day you give it some time, or every week you give it some time, every month you give it some time, and when you do that over and over again for 10 years or 5 years is when you actually get a so as compound interest is when you get the benefit of compound interest. So, whatever you want to do in life, whatever you think is your goal, the only way is SIP. Do it every day, every week, every month, consistently, sometime.
Hmm.
But after a few years, you will get really great results. I did not know this at that point of time. I figured out, probably somebody told me, but I figured it out later. But I would like to tell the Akshay who came fresh out of college this thing. But you know what? Start investing now, both in money and in yourself.
Yeah.
That is what I'd like to tell him.
Thank you, Akshay. Thanks for sharing your journey. Very insightful. And
Thank you.
definitely for me, the takeaway has been your very strong learner mindset. And to ensure, as you said right now, keep on investing in yourself and in your career and in your professional and personal life so that the returns keep on growing. And being mindful of
Yeah, yeah,
the most critical mindset to have to ensure that the things reach the last mile. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Akshay, for being with
Thank,
us.
thank you.
Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.